Let's do some data collection today based solely on the marksmanship skills needed at 50 yards and at 25 yards compared to the latest officer-involved shooting from Modesto, California. Stick around. So what I've got this morning is a brand new fresh target. Set it up here at our backstop, and we're going to break down each position individually, 50 yards and 25 yards, to just the required number of rounds as compared to the shooting, to see if, first of all, the 50-yard hit along with the .70, .50, .40 follow-up shots would result in hits on our target. Then we're going to break down the 25-yard position where there were 3 shots fired. I don't really know what the initial shot was, and it doesn't really matter, but the 2 other follow-up shots were at a .25 shot split between each shot too. So at 50 it was bang, 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 and at 25 it was bang, bang, bang. Okay, so we're going to break down each of those individually before we then put them together as a whole for a full seven shots, and just kind of look at, again, what the marksmanship is needed to make this happen, to make the hits connect with the target at those distances. So here we go.
All the way back to 25. And that already seems like, right, quite the distance at 25. Well, let's go back to another 25.
My good friend John Correa at Active Self-Protection measured this out according to the shooting and according to the video at a distance of 50 yards for the first initial contact of 4 shots. And here we are at 50 yards. So at this first position, I'm going to start with the gun up in my high ready with both hands on it and set a random start for my timer. We're not really focused on exactly the reaction to the first shot because it doesn't matter. The first shot should have been his most accurate shot, as that's when he's got all the time to polish up the sights and really refine his grip and trigger control to ensure that the shot goes intended where it's on the target. What we're going to be looking at is what those follow-up shots look like at this distance. The second shot was determined to be at .70. Third shot was determined to be at .50. Fourth shot was determined to be at .40. So I'm going to try to follow that same method or that same cadence for the 4 shots, and let's see if a person of grandmaster kind of status on pistol shooting, or somebody that's well versed in pistol shooting, can indeed make those 4 hits count on a 50-yard target. Here we go. So my reaction to the time was 1.12, right, for the first shot. Doesn't matter. I've already got a really good refined sight picture, good grip pressures established to the gun. Second shot was .73, so I was as close as I could get it for the absolute first time through. Third shot was a .61, so I was about a 10th second slower for my third shot, and my fourth shot was a .52, so I'm again about a 10th of a second off of that. Let's go down real quick though and take a look at the hits. And again, this was shot completely cold. These are the first 4 shots out of my pistol this morning. And it looks like we've got 2 really good solid A-zone hits and 2 just a little bit low. One's about a 1/4 of an inch outside the lower of the A-zone. The other one's about a 1/2 inch outside the A-zone. But those are all good, pretty good center mass hits. I would take those hits every single day at 50 yards at that level of speed and cadence. So that being said, is it possible for the officer to have been able to shoot 50 yards? And again, we're not talking about the moral implications or the the fortitude to take those shots based on any sort of, did he believe that there would be a threat or anything else. We're going to look at it just from the aspect of true and pure marksmanship. Those are 4 center mass hits. All of those would be pretty effective hits at 50 yards, following as close as I could for the very first 4 shots out of the gun today, the level of accuracy needed at 50 yards to render a threat with acceptable hits. Now we're back to our 25-yard distance. I've repaired the target and patched the 4 holes that, as you can see, were pretty well all good center mass hits at a distance of 50 yards within the time parameters, give or take 1/10 of a second to what the officer had. So now we're going to try to follow up with the second half of that. It was at 25 yards, and it's 3 shots with about 0.25 or quarter-second splits in between them. That's pretty sporty, but again, I don't believe that marksmanship-wise only that is going to be ineffective to make the hits, or that it's going to be really impossible or really hard to do. But let's take a look. Again, I'm going to start with the pistol at high ready, just as the officer did, to try to recreate this as much as I can. That was a 1.47 kind of reaction to the first shot. Second shot was at 0.30. Third shot was at, second shot was 0.32. Second shot was at 0.30. So I'm within 1/2 of those same shots. Let's go down range and take a look to see what those are at. And again, we are a little low center mass, but we're within their 6-inch by 11-inch A zone. Shooting those within that kind of quarter-second, 0.3 of a second shot split speed. So is it possible? Absolutely, it's possible. All right, so again, my target's all pasted up, so it's fresh and clean. We're going to try this now at 50 yards, beginning from the 50-yard position with the gun fully extended, grip established. I'm going to fire my 4 shots, 1, 2, 3, 4. Then I'm going to immediately traverse up to the 25-yard, or around about the 25-yard distance. I'm going to wait a couple of seconds, try to regain my composure, just kind of the same thing that the police officer was doing. And then I'm going to then fire those 3 shots, 1, 2, 3, and see, again, if we can put 7 hits on the target together. Okay, so time data. First initial shot was 0.91 to the beep. I had plenty of time though to establish the sight picture, what I wanted to do, how I wanted to get there. Looking at the data, the second shot was 0.72, so I'm right in that time frame. 0.55 for the third shot, and 0.50 for the fourth shot, all at 50 yards. Then as we go up, I had 9.91 seconds, and I'm pretty certain it might have been a little more than 10 seconds between the first position and second position shooting, but I tried to replicate that about as close as I could. And then I had a 0.32, so I'm a little slower than his 0.25, and a 0.30, so almost identical to what my first 3 initial shots were together as well. But more importantly, let's go down to range here and see effectively what the hits look like. So we've got at least 4 absolute center mass center A zone hits, and 1, 2, 3 that are well within that BC zone, right, or of center mass, which would still be fairly effective hits at that speed, given the distance and the time constraints and the pressure that somebody would be under making those shots at that time, within that time frame. I'm not happy, obviously, with the little bit of accuracy issues here. Those are probably, if I had to guess, based on what my shot calling ability was, shot number 1 at 50, shot number 2 at 50, shot number 3 at 50, and shot number 4 at 50, because then I was so focused on trying to just get moving to the next position to shoot the next 3 shots. Those next 3 shots then, of course, would be these 2 as well as that one at 25 within that 0.30 to 0.32 split time. So anyway, so clearly the conclusion that we made today with our experiment and kind of data collection on the range today was that our accurate hits at 50 yards able to be made in those pressure constraints or time constraints. Absolutely. 25 yards, again, quarter second splits for 3 shots, center mass of a target are, is that, I want to say easy to do, but is it capable of being done? Absolutely. Did that officer in that video have the confidence to know he could make those hits on demand as needed? Again, man, that's only for him really to decide. I think just kind of based on the level of like aptitude that he had in being able to hold the gun, handle the firearm, and the confidence level that he seemed to have behind the sights, tells me that maybe he does believe he has that confidence to do that. And I definitely don't want to take anything away from that officer from a purely marksmanship level. Now, again, I definitely don't want to get into any sort of like, moral dilemma. Was he justified? Was he not justified? Did he see something that we didn't see? Again, man, there's a lot of, crazy unanswered questions there that I would rather not get in the mix of. The thing that just really like sparked my interest in this was in my good friend John Korea on active self-protection, mentioning that it takes an extreme high level of skill to make those particular hits happen at those distances. And I'm not necessarily challenging his belief that it does take a high level of skill, but I don't necessarily believe that it takes like this insane, almost godlike level of skill to make that happen. Today, it was just, honestly, those were my first and second, I broke that skill level. I broke that down to shooting just the 4 at 50, then shooting the 3 at 25, and then putting those together. Those were literally the first 14 shots out of my pistol this morning. So even being able to have kind of that pressure on me, like, okay, I'm under time constraint. I'm under the pressure of everybody being able to see this on video and see what my level of execution is cold right then and there on demand, is still conceivable, even at maybe the level that officer, maybe performs at in his own training or on the job or whatnot. So again, this was just merely kind of for fun, just to see if the challenge was there, if I was up to the challenge, to see if the 50 and 25 yard hits were capable in that time frame to actually make all the hits. Now, granted, we know the officer in question didn't make all the hits. I believe, kind of looking at the end of that video where the officers are then rendering first aid to the gentleman that was shot, was that it looks like there's maybe 2 hits, center mass, that did, obviously were effective enough to stop whatever threat they might have been able to conceive. But are 7 hits at those distances, at those time frames, able to be achieved? Yes. Do I believe that it takes somebody of my skill level to make those hits regularly? No. I think it just takes like I said, a certain level of practice, a certain level of confidence behind the gun to make those decisions when those decisions, when that occasion arises. So again, don't look in it. I don't want you guys to read anything else into this except for just from a purely performance standard or performance basis. I wanted to see and be able to prove that yes, it is possible to put all 7 on target and kind of lay that to rest. That was the officer, skill wise, was he out of the realm of his level of expertise to do so? I think only he can decide that. But can it be done? Absolutely. So anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed today's video, and hit me up with some comments on things that you liked and didn't like it. Maybe if you'd like to see some more of this stuff in the future. I'll talk to you soon. Take care.